watching Marketplace Africa. I'm Robin Kerno. We're in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Now, necessity has made innovators out of many Africans. In poorer places like this, people come up with creative solutions for their everyday life. Well, let's start the show by looking at examples of African innovation. This is Professor Mohamed Sanad. He works in the Faculty of Engineering at Cairo University. And this antenna has just won him the new Innovation Prize for Africa. His invention is the world's first mobile phone antenna that is designed to significantly reduce the human body's exposure to cellular radiation.
It's a dream for every scientist to be able to make a difference in the world, and that's my dream, and I hope I can do that.
But despite his success, Professor Sanad says he and other inventors in Africa are held back.
We have problems because, as I said, many organizations in Africa and the governments still didn't realize the importance of investing in high technology. So it's a new thing for Africans and for most of African governments and organizations, but it's getting changed, and this competition is a proof for this.
Ambassador Walter Fusk is the chairman of the African Innovation Foundation, one of the organizations behind this new Innovation Prize for Africa. He says these are exciting times for African ingenuity.
And I'm absolutely convinced, and we have seen now, by launching this first African Innovation Prize and the Prize Awards, that there are world novelties coming out of Africa.
I'm in Gipile Mabuse at the Silverbird Media Store here in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, the only store accredited in this city to sell one of these, Africa's own version of the iPad. It's appropriately named Inye, which means first in the local Igala language. It uses the Google Android operating system, and its makers say it's half the price of the iPad. Nigeria is the biggest market here on the African continent with 160 million people and no Apple store. So Inye is hoping to bridge that gap. Saeed, we're talking at an interesting time when demand for the new iPad is said to be off the charts, but Africa has never really been a big market for Apple. Is that the gap that you're trying to fill?
Exactly the gap we're trying to fill here in Africa. What we've realized is that the Apple company in the US have no presence here in Nigeria, primarily because they have a huge market in America and in China.
So if I buy one of these, what do I get?
What you get with one of these is you get the latest Android 3.0, which
you use the Google Android. Okay.
Also, you have access to the marketplace that gives you access to different applications.
Okay. But there are challenges. I mean, you only sold 80 of Inye 1.
Yes.
And you launched Inye 2 last year, May.
Yes.
You haven't sold a single device. Why?
Correct. Primarily because we're trying to get funding. So we can bring the price points as low as we can. Venture capitalism here is still young, and a lot of people that invest would want to invest in projects like real estate. Technology firms are still very new within Nigeria.
And is that discouraging for you?
Sometimes it is, but I do know that I have seen lots of other stories of startups, and I know how long it takes them to get funding. So I know if you go at it for as long as you can and try and get as much credibility behind your brand, you would get funding either locally or internationally.
I'm Dave McKenzie in Nairobi, Kenya. This is the iHub. It's a technology collective, some 7,000 members, venture capitalists, developers, and just people trying to invent new things. I'm here to meet a young Kenyan who's finding a way to use a cell phone when people are in a tight spot so they can get help. So David, why did you develop this application?
Well, I developed this application mainly because of my brother, my younger brother. I thought about his safety and our safety in totality. So I was thinking about the kidnappings that I had about from my family, friends, and it was getting too much.
So how does it work?
As you can see, I've already set up my brother as one of the in case of emergency contact.
And you've got this huge red button there.
Exactly.
So it's like literally hitting an alarm.
Exactly. It's simple, it's easy to use. It's on your home screen on Android phones.
So if you're in trouble, paint a scenario, what would you do?
Unlock my phone, have the home screen button, press it. And in 5 seconds, it locates you and it sends the SMS.
So the phone positions where you are and sends that to your contact.
Exactly. The importance of Africans developing for African problems is because they are the ones who really understand what is needed, what are the limitations, and what can be done.
So what do you hope for this product?
So what I hope for this product is that people will actually feel safer as they walk, as they move around, and we're actually already getting feedback of the same. I mean, we're already in beta testing and people are already saying we're feeling safer because we have this application.
Political and business leaders have gathered for the World Economic Forum here in Addis Ababa to talk about opportunity on the continent. Well, we sat down with Ori Okola, Google's policy manager for Africa, to talk about where she thinks Africa's innovative future is headed. Here at WEF, you're talking about innovation. What have you got to say?
I think what we're seeing definitely, along with all the statistics around economic growth, African countries getting more stable, is this realization that there is a lot of energy being unleashed. But it's coming to the forefront because the can-do nature that Africans have always had, which is what I prefer to call it. We've always sort of can-do and made do with the circumstances.
What are the challenges for innovators in Africa?
I think that there are two big challenges. One is always the perennial question around funding. But beyond that is also sort of the business skills. How do you sort of take your ideas to market? The idea could be innovative, but how you package it, I think, is an area I'm saying the young innovators need to improve. I think that the other big challenge is access to the market. Africa, as you know, it's very fragmented in terms of being able to do business. And really, for you to grow, your idea needs to be not just in Kenya, but needs to at least service the East Africa community, for instance.
So how important is creativity to economic growth, and is it enough to change people's lives?
Connecting you.
How do Africa's pioneers take their innovations to the market? And more importantly, how does innovation spark new jobs, growth? Well, for our FaceTime interview this week, we sit down with Emeka Okafor. He's one of the judges for the New Innovation Prize for Africa and has a technology blog.
How do you see innovators in Africa as opposed to innovators in other countries, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in other emerging markets or in the United States? How is it different in Africa, and how can that best be promoted and utilized?
Some of the differences may stem from the lower income levels and lower infrastructure bases you have within Africa. So for example, you don't have the kinds of research budgets in African countries that you may easily come across here in the United States or in Western Europe. Innovation tends to have more of a utility purpose to it because there's an immediate need. Many of the fabricators and hackers or makers or whatever you might choose to call them have an urgent need to increase their incomes, build up on what they don't have. So there is this sense of urgency around what they're doing. That may differ somewhat from what you could consider the makers in the United States that have more disposable income and have the luxury of time and resources to quote-unquote tinker.
What is Maker Faire Africa?
Maker Faire Africa is an annual assembly of innovators, inventors, tinkerers, fabricators that occurs in a different African country every year. It's essentially a place where we feel those who are of a creative disposition across all disciplines can more or less not just display what they're doing, but interact with their peers, the public, and everyone else. In an environment where the operative term was, what had you made? What were you making? In an environment where it wasn't your pedigree, your background, your education that mattered, it's what you had put together.
So what are the biggest challenges that remain?
In what terms?
For inventors, for innovators in Africa.
Mm-hmm. Well, inventors and innovators across the world, they generally face the same set of challenges. It's just that in Africa, they're largely magnified. One is developmental costs. You know, I have this great idea. I've been able to fabricate and put something together. How do I move it through the processes and phases of prototyping before we even get to the point where we can say we have something that may be absorbed by a market, a business, and so forth. So there's that. Communication, a recognition that what they're doing is important. There's a need. You know, we have business types who are looking for solutions, but there isn't that much of a connection between their need and those who might be working at it.
That's all from us from the streets of Addis Ababa. I'm Robin Kerno. Remember, you can find us at cnn.com/marketplaceafrica. Goodbye.